Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this Friday the 13th finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented yesterday. Temperature and rainfall outlooks, still a fair amount of heat for several more days in the Corn Belt, but we are going to be breaking that heat in western portions of the region by Monday, and eventually we are looking at the heat to be broken all across the Corn Belt, and for that matter, a good portion of the central and eastern United States for the middle of next week and right through the end of the 11 to 15 day period. Additional rain is going to be falling in the 6 to 10 day period. As always, 11 to 15 day forecast, not a lot of confidence, and as usual, that forecast may be too dry as a northwesterly flow aloft is expected to persist through that time frame. QPF discussion for the 1 to 5 day period. I would consider this forecast as too wet in some areas, and especially that would be the case in the area that I'm circling here for eastern portion of Missouri and into southern portion of Illinois. Certainly that area is going to be seeing rainfall during this time frame, but such solid coverage of rainfall amounts of 1.5 to 2.5 inches, probably overdoing what is actually going to be falling there. Really do not have any real big disagreements elsewhere with regards to what the map shows. Maybe coverage is overdone to some degree in the Corn Belt, but at the same time, I think that there's going to be locally heavier amounts than shown in the Corn Belt as well. For the day 6 to 7 time frame, like yesterday, quite a bit of model differences between the drier GFS model and a wetter European model. With this particular map, I'm really not going towards either of those forecasts. My own bias is for the wetter European model solution to verify, and thus the period in question would be wetter than this map would suggest. Afternoon high temperatures yesterday, 80s and 90s again in the Corn Belt. Note that once again, the drier portions of the southwestern Corn Belt was the area seeing the biggest heat yesterday. A lot of that area seeing 95 to 100 or even localized 101 degree high temperature readings on your Thursday. Temperatures as of 5 o'clock this morning, very warm for areas especially west of the Mississippi River. Lots of 70-degree temperatures there, localized areas into the 75 to 80 degree mark as of 5 o'clock Central Time this morning. Rainfall over the last 24 hours, widely scattered activity in portions of the Mid-South, a more concentrated activity in the nation's midsection, clearly across northwestern portions of the Corn Belt where there has been significant or even locally heavier totals. You can see that on radar estimated rainfall. A few counties in South Dakota overnight were under some flash flood warnings, as that is mainly due to the area of rainfall that I just circled there in southeastern South Dakota. Early morning radar on this Friday shows that considerable shower and thunderstorm activity continues to be occurring at this time in the northwestern Corn Belt. As far as your forecast is concerned, the frontal system responsible for the activity shown on the radar this morning will slowly be sagging its way southward during the daytime hours today, producing additional shower and thunderstorm activity during the daytime hours. This is a look at surface features as of late in the afternoon or early this evening on this Friday, showing rainfall activity associated with that frontal boundary in the western and northwestern Corn Belt. Additional rainfall chances going to be seen throughout the rest of the 10-day forecast as well. Probably a situation where some portion of the Corn Belt is going to be seeing some rain on every day throughout the 10-day time frame. On most days, some of that rainfall being significant or even locally heavy. Looking at surface features as of 7 o'clock in the afternoon on this Sunday shows that the European model suggesting a broad area of rainfall chances in the Corn Belt, as is the GFS model, also the Canadian model, and even the European ensemble as well. Very difficult to be talking about rainfall specifics, but again, a situation where every model would suggest that some portion of the Corn Belt is going to be having rainfall chances at that time. As we get towards the middle of next week, again, that is where we are seeing some differences once again in the models. GFS model, a good deal drier than the European model, and a good deal drier than other models for that matter as well. So that is why I'm siding with the wetter European model solution. You can see there that as of 7 o'clock in the morning for next Thursday, really not a whole lot of rainfall indicated by the GFS operational model, but pretty solid rainfall threat there from the European operational model. Canadian model also kind of agreeing with a pretty significant rainfall event in the central portion of the Corn Belt. European ensemble would be that as way. I also have some additional support this morning from a model that I don't talk about very much, and that is the UK Met, a model that is run by the Meteorological Office out of the United Kingdom. Notice that it, just like the European model that I'm showing there on the left, there you can see that the European model has a pretty distinctive upper level low, and you can see that the UK Met model as well has a pretty distinctive upper level low approaching the Corn Corn Belt for late in the day on July 18th. So overall, a pretty decent confidence right now that drier GFS solution for the middle of next week is not going to be correct, and that we should be seeing additional significant rainfall in the Corn Belt at that time. But overall, the bottom line is that for the next 10 days, we are still looking at significant rainfall chances all across the Corn Belt, and that is the case no matter which model you want to believe. There's the GFS operational model, the GFS ensemble, Canadian ensemble, European ensemble, European operational model. As always, don't get caught up in the specifics of any of these rainfall forecasts. Every one of them is far from perfect, but what you can take from these forecasts is that everyone in the Corn Belt has at least a chance for an inch of rainfall. Is everyone going to see an inch of rainfall? I doubt it. After all, it is the summertime, a situation where circumstances or bad luck means that places just simply get missed. But overall, everyone has a chance at an inch of rainfall over the next 10 days, and there are going to be localized areas that get even heavier rainfall amounts than that. Some places probably seeing 2+ or even 3+ inch rainfall amounts during the next 10 days. Temperature forecast, still a lot of warmth in the forecast for several more days. Looking at your high temperature forecast for this Friday finds that only northwestern portion of the Corn Belt will not be seeing 90+ degree highs for your Friday. European model still indicating a pretty significant area in the drier portion of the southern and southwestern Corn Belt, seeing high temperatures above 95 or even localized above 100 degrees. A very warm low temperature is going to be a factor for several more mornings as well. Looking at the low temperature forecast for even as late as Monday morning finds that big portion of the Corn Belt at that time seeing low temperatures above the 70 degree mark. Probably will be localized areas during the next 2 to 3 days in which low temperatures struggle to get below the 80 degree level. It's not going to be that warm in far western portion of the Corn Belt for today right through Sunday, and as we get towards Monday, that cooler weather is going to be starting to work its way eastward and southward. You can see that by the time we get to July 16th, which is Monday, still a pretty fair amount of heat in the eastern and southern portion of the Corn Belt, but much cooler weather arriving by that time for the central and northern plains and into the western Corn Belt. And by the time we get to next Thursday, near to below normal temperatures going to be seen by that time all across the Corn Belt region. And overall, a general lack of extreme heat in the forecast for the remainder of the 2-week time frame as well. As far as your look at 500 millibars for the 11 to 15 day time frame, one thing that I want to note this morning is the European operational model, which may be getting a little bit of press time in the marketplace. You can see that the European model this morning at the very end of the 10-day time frame has a pretty extensive dome of high pressure that is actually getting into southwestern portion of the Corn Belt by that time, which if correct would mean that we would see another arrival of some heat in the Corn Belt for that time frame. Got to be disbelieving that European model though with a lot of confidence this morning, holding back too much of a trough of low pressure into a northwestern portion of the nation, which is a pretty common European model error for that part of the nation. Going to be seeing much more troughing in eastern portion of the nation by that time. So you can see that there is good model agreement between the European ensemble, the GFS ensemble, also the Canadian ensemble, that any dome of high pressure by that time is still going to be taking up its normal southwesterly U.S. location in the Four Corners region, and still a northwesterly flow aloft indicated in the Corn Belt at that time. So maybe getting a little bit of press time this morning will be a hot look from the European operational model at the end of the 10-day time frame, but that is a forecast that I am disbelieving this morning. There really is no other model support for such a hot forecast this morning, and that would even be from the European ensemble. Even for late in the 11 to 15 day time frame, dome of high pressure still in its normal location in the summertime in southwestern portion of the nation over the Four Corners, still a northwesterly flow aloft in the Corn Belt at that time that should be keeping alive rainfall chances even into the 11 to 15 day period. Looking at international weather this morning, still pretty limited rainfall for another week or so across Germany, France, and England. Very minimal amounts there, but we will be seeing rainfall picking up in those areas for the week 2 time frame. Very nice rain is going to be seen, especially over the next week in the eastern portion of Poland. And generally speaking, temperatures running above normal in Europe for the next 2 weeks, but not a lot of extreme heat in the forecast. For the summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union, you have to consider the weather forecast there as trending wetter overall. Most of that area looking at above normal rainfall during the next 2 weeks. No more is that the case than in Ukraine and areas to the north of there, where the 2-week rainfall forecast is featuring pretty heavy rainfall totals of 2 to 4 inches there. drier eastern summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union will not be quite as wet, but even that area looking to see some 1+ inch rainfall totals over the next 2 weeks. That rainfall getting started in that area for especially the second half of this weekend and continuing into the rest of next week and even into the 2-week time frame. Going to be seeing additional 90+ degree heat in southern region and nearby areas in the near term, but that heat will be breaking next week as rain starts to fall in that area. Spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union still looking at a drier forecast than they have seen recently. Any rains there mainly in far southern and far western areas. Forecast continues to dry out for China, and I do think that this is certainly something to be noting. Not still a bad forecast for at least the next 10 days for northern portion of Manchuria. Key growing areas of Heilongjiang going to be seeing some very nice rains there over the next 10 days. But note that for southern portions of Manchuria and areas to the south of there, the forecast is quite dry for the next 2 weeks. Southern portion of Manchuria will be seeing some rainfall for the next couple of days, but then that area as well as all of the North China Plain looking at largely dry weather with really no rain at all in the forecast for most of next week and probably right into the 11 to 15 day time frame. And even northern portion of Manchuria could be drying out for the 11 to 15 day period as well. So the bottom line, Chinese forecast certainly drying out over the next 2 weeks with even northern portion of Manchuria drying out for the 11 to 15 day time frame. Above normal temperatures going to be dominating Chinese corn and soybean areas for the next 2 weeks as well, with plenty of days with highs above 90 degrees on a widespread basis. Not an especially good forecast for the Canadian prairies in southern portion of that growing area. Note that for the next 10 days and probably even into the 11 to 15 day time frame, a very limited rainfall, some places nothing at all for southern portion of Alberta into southern Saskatchewan. It is a better forecast so far northern growing areas of the Canadian prairies. Forecast for the next 2 weeks for eastern wheat growing areas of Australia, still looking at very minimal rains, a lot of places nothing at all in New South Wales and into Queensland. Forecast is improving to some degree in Western Australia, with some rain going to be falling there, especially in the week 2 time frame. Finishing up for your Friday, monsoon looks quite good over the next 2 weeks for northern portions of India. Especially good would be rainfall during that time frame for the key groundnut and oilseed areas of Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, and a big portion of Rajasthan. That's what I have for your Friday. Everyone have themselves a great day and an even greater weekend.